So welcome, Brother Yogesh. Thank you so much for joining. And before I pass it on to you, his video camera is on, off, so he'll do it, he'll on it soon. Actually, we have been very eagerly awaiting his presence because for some reason or the other, we were not able to get his dates. He was busy with some other seva and so on and so forth. So all of us know him very well. Basically, Brother Yogesh has been a personal development trainer and a workshop facilitator for more than 20 years now. And that's what I like about him, that all his talks are basically about facilitation. They are not about teaching. He basically is an Indian background, born in Africa, but brought up in the West, London and Oxford. And again, taken a lot of sustenance from Dadi Janki and Sister Jayanti as well. He really conducts a lot of talks, has many seminars and workshops to his credit. And as always, a poem for him and abundance together. Sorry, are we able to highlight him? Not yet. Okay. Yeah, so I think as I speak about the poem, the spotlight will come. Yeah, thanks. So the poem I start. Brother Yogesh is instrumental in serving the city of Istanbul, which is because he's indeed so wise and knowledgeful. Through his talks, he makes the hopeless feel hopeful because he helps them to experience the divine pull. Today, he shall share on how to have our aprons always full so that we are far away from the mighty Ravan's pull. I'm sure we're going to be away from that pull by establishing our lost connection with the ever peaceful and blissful. Let's make our life pleasurable, joyful, and cheerful. And finally, by encircling ourselves with the garment of spiritual wool, let's be safe from the attack of the devilish Maya bull. So thank you so much, Yogesh, for joining. Thank you. And we really are awaiting your presence since almost a year. You have to admit that. Thank you. Over to you.
How can I follow that, Manoj Bhai? It's not fair. Yes, so can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you okay. If I can just request all the others to please mute. I'll just mute yourself. I think it was coming from here. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for such a beautiful poem, as always. And I know you have another talk to do in half an hour, so I wish you all success for that in advance. And I was wondering, what to say, because so much has already been said about abundance. And probably I'll be repeating some of it from my own experience, because the spiritual journey, although each one of us has our own individual spiritual journey, but yet the discoveries we make along the path tend to be very similar. And our teaching is also the same. And so one thing, of course, is that the way one interprets truth and experiences it is a little different. And I guess that's what makes it valuable, to be able to listen to different people sharing the experience of the same topic. So abundance is not a term that I have thought of much. And it's also not a term I think we discuss deeply in the spiritual journey, certainly in our spiritual university. And I remember the first time hearing this word, it was when I was at school, when I was a child at school. And to me, it really meant something like this. This is what abundance meant to me. And And then I began to understand that, okay, it's more than a dancing bun. But if you put the words together, then the meaning is quite deep. And it was mentioned earlier also about scarcity, and certainly the fears and anxieties that many have today in the world. In this part of the world, there is a free floating anxiety connected to hyperinflation, plus earthquake situation, and many other scenarios which are causing people to wonder, will I have enough? And will I be able to take care of myself and of my family? Now, one thing for sure is that the circumstances outside of us are beyond our control. But yet, it's also the case that my inner circumstances are going to ultimately protect me and take care of me. And I think when one comes onto the spiritual path, you become aware of the spiritual universe which is inside you. And you realize how that inner spiritual universe actually is then impacting the world or the universe outside of you. And so we begin to pay more attention to that inner universe and just learning how to live wisely, how to live spiritually. Now, in the world outside, there are certain models and certain dynamics of life that we are dropped into when we, as soon as born, especially in the big cities. And a large part of that is to do with chasing after something in life. It could be education, a certain job, a certain partner, a certain house. It's a life of chasing after. And we are also told that you need to get there quickly. You need to get there first, because others may want to have the same thing as you. So be quick and push your way in and use your elbows if you have to. And once you get what you want, then you have to protect it, because other people may try to steal it, take it away from you. And so that's pretty much sums up most people's lives today, where it's very much a fear-based or deficit-based lifestyle in which there's no real peace or no real sense of rest or calm. But I think as we enter into the spiritual understanding of life, we realize that there are other principles, laws, dynamics at work, which are causing things to happen. And we want to explore what those subtle, invisible, unmanifest dynamics are. We want to live in alignment and in accordance with them. And so one of the concepts connected to living a life of abundance is, as has been mentioned a few times, firstly, to check what kind of energies am I living my life with? And the basis of abundance I have experienced and I have seen in some other great individuals is true generosity of heart, generosity of spirit. Now, in order to have a big heart or to have a generous heart, first I do need to have a clean heart. Now, what do we mean by a clean heart? So for this, we have to identify and define what is dirt, what is spiritual dirt, which creates limitations in the heart. Now, there are many multiple forms of spiritual dirt, but in essence, I think they revolve around two main forms of dirt. One of them is the feeling of I, and the other is the feeling of mine. I and mine. Now, these two things, they create limitations in the heart, and therefore also limitations in our relationships with each other and also with life in general. We can see how this operates on the global scale today, where this wonderful thing called planet Earth, with its waters, its landmass, with its air, has been cut and divided, such that we say to people, you cannot fly your plane in my airspace or I will shoot it down. If your boat comes a few meters into my waters, I have the right to seize it or even sink it. And all of these borders, of course, have been created in the minds of human beings. I was listening to a scientist speaking recently, and he was saying what he'd really love to do is to take all the warring leaders of today into a spaceship and take them 250,000 miles into space, and to ask them to look at the Earth and say, now look at that. Can you see the borders? Can you see where your country starts and somebody else's country begins? Now, God not see from up there, it's all one. But we have to ask ourselves the same question on an individual level, that to what degree have I placed limits or borders within my own heart, especially when it comes to our relationships with other people? Can I express that energy of generosity in my relationships? And what does that mean? Again, to try not to repeat what has been said last week or the week before, but I find one of the beautiful definitions of generosity in terms of spirituality is to not hold the mistakes, the errors, the weaknesses of others in my own heart. What happens when we remember the mistakes of others is then it's a kind of imprisonment of the other, placing another person in the prison of their past mistakes. And so what energy will that generate in my relationship with them? I will see the other in association with their past mistake. And when that person sees me, he or she will remember, this person is thinking of me with my past mistake. And so we get locked in this toxic energy of remembering a misdemeanor or some kind of mistake or some kind of bad interaction between us. But what I have seen in the great yogis whom I've had the fortune of seeing for many years is they do not hold the mistake of another in their mind and in their heart. And this allows the heart to remain clean. And where there is cleanliness, then naturally this energy of generosity emerges. And generosity in relationships is this, that I want the best for you. I want you to be the best that you can be. I want to help in whatever way I can to enable the best version of you to emerge. Now, this has been remembered as, in various contexts, as the Pygmalion effect. What you see in another person can enable that person to become that. And so a generous heart is able to see the best potential in another and subtly and invisibly invite the other to also gravitate towards their own best potential. Now, quite naturally, if I am doing that for others, if I'm having that quality of energy in my relationships with others, then it is going to bounce back. It is going to rebound back to me in various forms. It's going to bring goodness and kindness from the other towards me. And hence this energy, this pure energy of generosity and well-being is simply going to snowball and become bigger and bigger. And this is where the karmic equation comes into play. And that is, if I am expressing the energy of a generous heart, then you may call it life or the universe or the principles of spirituality. They will tune in to that, and whatever I require will come to me. So a person who is sincerely trying to live up to the highest values always has this quiet confidence that whatever I require, whatever I really need, it will be there at a moment of need. There will not be worry, anxiety, or the stress of, I need this and will I have it, will I not have it? But there'll be a quiet confidence. At the right time, the right thing will turn up. And so in this context, let us observe which lifestyle I am following. Am I living what we may call as this outside-in lifestyle? And that is where I am chasing after things and my mind is preoccupied with resources, with people's behavior, or being lost in the news. There is so much to be lost in order to pull to myself so I feel good, I feel secure. And that can only happen for a while because inside we have an inner need which cannot be fully satisfied from the outer world. But the opposite is the inside-out lifestyle. That is where I'm paying more attention to my thoughts, to my attitudes, towards my vision, and just to the energy which I am generating and using in my relationship with life and with other people. And in the lifestyle of a yogi or a spiritual person, this is where our whole focus is. What is the quality of my attitude and my thoughts as I come into interaction with others, with life, with situations? Am I able to generate a high quality energy of well-being and kindness towards others? I always say that the greatest investment and the greatest protection is in values, living up to the highest values that I can. Ultimately, there is nothing else that protects us. I'm reminded here of a little story I heard once, and it's a story of a man who needed some help in his house for something. And there were three friends that he thought to call for help. And the first friend was living next door. So he asked him, he said, I need some help. Can you please come? And the person next door said, well, I'm sorry, but I have guests. not able to come. And so he said, okay, fine. And then the second friend lived at the end of the road. And so he called him and said, I need some help with something in my house. Can you please come? And the second friend at the end of the road said, well, I'd love to, but I have some work going on in my house. I need to be with the workers. So sorry, not available. And he said, okay, fine. And then the third friend lived quite far away. He called him and said, can you please come? I need some help right now. And the third friend said, yes, I'll drop what I'm doing. I'm coming straight away. And so who are these three friends? And the meaning in the story is this, that when your time for departure comes, as of course it comes for everyone at some point or the other, then the first two friends, they can not go with you. The first friend is your own physical body. No matter how healthy you have been, or how attractive you look, or how old or young you are, or even how well known you were, but your body cannot go with you. You have to leave that behind when the time for departure comes. Second friend is your family and those who are closest to you in your life. No matter how much you love them or they love you, how much time you spent with them, how many good times you've had with them, how well they know you, but at the time of departure, they cannot go with you. You have to leave them behind. But only the third friend goes with you. The third friend are the actions that you have done in your life. And if you have done good actions, if you have given happiness to others, if you have invested in values in your interactions, those actions, that level of karma is going to go with you into the next part of your journey. So in terms of abundance, we can think not only of our current existence, but also the existence beyond this one, the life beyond this one. What energies am I carrying in my life now, which are also going to come with me as time moves on? Now, having said this, there's another scene coming to my mind now. I'll just quickly share this too. This was some years ago when I was visiting in London, maybe about 4-5 years ago. And I was at our main center there. Some of you may have been there. It's called Global Cooperation House, the main BK center in the UK. And I was just in our morning class. I was not doing the class. I was sitting and listening to one of the sisters reading the lesson. And maybe there were 40, 50 people seated in the room. And then one guy who was just in front of me, just slightly to the side, he died right there. And I was the closest person to him. And he was the kind of person who you'd never hear him speak unless he was speaking to you directly. You would never overhear him speaking to somebody else. So he's a very quiet person. And I just remember, he had a heart attack, and officially the death was in the hospital a day or two later. But it seemed to me that he looked at me as he was passing. It just seemed to me that the soul had left at that moment, and then he was placed on the floor, and the paramedics came and were working away. And so we were all asked to vacate the room. But I remember as I was there and I was one of the people just helping to put him down on the floor, this thought came to my mind without consciously creating it, but just a thought came from the subconscious. And that thought was that one day everyone's time comes. One day my time will come as well. And what will I ask myself when that time comes? And the thoughts which just popped up into my mind were these, that in my life, how much happiness did I give? How much love did I share? How many smiles did I create? These were the thoughts coming to my mind. And I thought, this is how I would measure how meaningful or how successful my life has been. It would be by these kinds of things. And so then it just made it more sharp for me to pay more attention that in my interactions, my daily, everyday interactions with people, you're passing somebody or saying hello to someone, you're entering a room, am I making that conscious effort to spread a little bit of happiness? Or am I just kind of neutral and doing my own thing? If I make that conscious effort, let me share some happiness. Let me share some love. Let me give some respect. If I do that from a position of self-motivation, then instantly it's good for me. I begin to feel good. It's good for the other. Other people feel happy and smile, and helps to put them also in a positive frame of mind. But also I find that these little interactions where I am consciously choosing to be generous-hearted, the universe or life is watching, and what I really need will come to me. There won't even be a question of abundance. Do I have enough? Do I not have enough? Those worries won't be there, but just there'll be the feeling life will deliver at the right time. I don't need to pay too much attention to that. All I have to pay is attention on what energies am I generating and am I using and sharing in my relationships, whether it's with people I know or people I don't know. You know, you may be at an airport check-in, you may be in a bus, anybody around you who you happen to have some interaction with, consider it to be a moment where you can distribute some happiness, some joy, something which makes another person's heart feel a bit more light. And I think that this is the automatic karmic machinery which then takes care of your needs. Let me add one more thing here, and this is about cooperation. And I have found that there are 3 different levels or 3 different types of cooperation, and how this connects to generosity and abundance. The first is this. Let's say, for example, you want to go out and it's raining, and I have an umbrella. And you ask me, can I borrow your umbrella? And I say, sure, please take it. That's called passive cooperation. You asked me, I said, sure, yes. Okay, you get 1 tick, 1 brownie point for that. Second scenario is called active cooperation. You want to go out, I have an umbrella, it's raining. I offer you my umbrella without being asked. I say, look, it's raining outside. Would you like to borrow my umbrella? Please take it. And you say, oh, cheers, thanks. That's kind of you. So proactive cooperation I do something good without needing even to be asked. So karmically, you get 2 ticks, 2 brownie points for that, maybe even 3. But then there's the highest form of cooperation, and that I would describe as proactive cooperation. And that is where I see your need even before you realize you have a need. I offer to help you, and you didn't even know you needed help. So in this context, maybe I look out for you and I check, tomorrow it's going to be raining and this guy needs to go out. So let me prepare this umbrella. Let me help this way, telling you, look, you might need an umbrella tomorrow. You might need to leave a bit earlier, just letting you know in advance. And so that kind of action, which is very high quality karma, then brings a huge reward back. Many, many, many ticks, many brownie points. I think if we pay attention to having this kind of awareness, then naturally life is going to take care of you when you have needs. But to do that, to be able to do that, we do need to go beyond the limitations of I and mine. And that's where we need to work on this thing called soul consciousness. It's one thing to consider myself to be a soul. It's another thing to consider you to be a soul. But it's a third thing to actually live in that awareness. Practicing to live in that awareness so that that feeling of kinship, the feeling of brotherhood is generated, and we're able to go beyond the ego-based identities which are currently ruling the world. And soul consciousness is a return journey back to innocence, back to truth. That's why we sometimes describe it also as an ongoing journey. So that's one thing, the power of the energy of generosity will take care of your needs, and you'll always feel whatever you need is going to be there at the right time, at the right moment. Next thing I would add is then checking how I am spending my thought and verbal energy. And it's a law, of course, that if you waste something, one day you will not have. If you do not value something, then one day it will go away from you. So in this life, it's one thing to look at your resources in terms of money and so-called possessions and objects and so on. But on the internal level, which is our interest, let's start firstly looking at our words. How am I spending my word energy? And I would suggest 2 things we can pay attention to here. One, as I think was mentioned earlier, is economizing with my word energy. So instead of saying 100 words to someone about something, can I communicate the same thing in, let's say, 60 words? And if I'm able to do that, then the energy of 40 words is saved. And that saved energy is going to accumulate in the mind. That accumulates as what we describe as Shanti ki Shakti, the power of silence, which is the basis of all other powers that a human being can have. Accumulating the power of silence by economizing with my words and also being more essenceful. Often a person will say, well, I don't have the inner strength to do such and such. I don't have the willpower to do X, Y, Z. I don't have the courage for so and so. But why? It's because the energy is being wasted in perhaps unnecessary speaking and unnecessary thinking. So can I be more essenceful and can I be more economical? Think, for example, that if you want to buy some object, let's say you want to buy a jacket from some department store, you may shop around, you may go to 3 or 4 different shops to check the best price. You may even wait until the sales are on. And so you learn to economize with your money. You wouldn't just go and spend without thinking. The same way, the words that I choose to speak, let me think about what I want to say, when to say it, who to say it, how much to say. And so this is called building a spiritual budget in yourself and also learning to be more essenceful. It is the case that people who are more essenceful and more precise, generally other people listen to them more rather than somebody who simply goes into unnecessary details, long-winded stories about some event. And then bringing it up to the thought level. When we have waste thoughts or weak thoughts, they come at a very fast speed. And when we have these kinds of thoughts, we make lots and lots of plans to do things. I'll do this, I will do that, I'll do the other. But there may not be the strength to put those ideas into practice. Simply because it's too many thoughts and they may not even be aligned to the situation I'm in. And then because of not being able to put those plans into practice, then there can be disheartenment, disillusionment, disenchantment, and some depression. So what to do? Make our thoughts powerful. Powerful thoughts are always few. Powerful thoughts come slowly, but powerful thoughts have much more impact and they become practical. How to make our thoughts powerful? For that, there is the need for spiritual study. And I think the majority of you on this call are aware of the different studies that we do, the morning study, especially the importance of having some spiritual wisdom first thing in the morning. And why is it important that before you start your day, before you check the news or the sports results or your texts, before doing all of that, first I need to reserve some time for my spiritual study. Let me read something, let me listen to some spiritual wisdom. Why first thing in the morning? So that through the day, I can be busy exploring it, researching it, studying it, thinking about it, churning it. It is by churning spiritual wisdom that our intellect gets power. And where there is power, then our thoughts and our ideas we are able to put into practice. For example, think of churning, think of having a vat or a container full of water. And if you were to stir it with let's say a large wooden spoon, what's the result? What do you get by churning a container of water, you just get tired, you get nothing else. But if you were to churn, for example, milk, then it changes into something, and you may get butter from that. Much the same way, if during the day I am just thinking about ordinary daily thoughts, then the mind just gets tired, nothing achieved. But if I'm thinking about and churning spiritual wisdom throughout the day, through that you get power. And that power then leads to insights. That power enables you to raise your consciousness. That power allows you not to take criticisms or insults personally, but yet to be able to generate the highest values from within you. In other words, your conscious living goes to another level. The result of that, life and the universe says, well done, well done. I will provide you with what you require. Abundance comes naturally when we're able to live in that higher vein of consciousness. But to be able to get there, we need power. To have power, we need to do this work of spiritual study and meditation every morning. Hence, it becomes a lifestyle. Without power, all these ideas are simply theory and nice ideas, but nothing really changes. So for me, everything comes back to these two things: building a systematic meditation into life and consciously studying spiritual knowledge through which I'm actually able to change old habits and thought patterns. Just having a quick look at the thing there. So let me come then to one or two more things just to wrap up, and then we'll do a little meditation. So as Dr. Manoj was mentioning earlier, it's around this time that we are remembering our Dadi Janki, who was global head, administrative head of our university for a while. And she passed away almost exactly 3 years ago. So I'd just like to honor her by mentioning some of the things I observed in her with regard to abundance. And she had many, many talents, abilities, skills, and specialities, as many of you would know who met her. But one of the things that she was an absolute master at was really knowing how to use things in the best way possible, how to squeeze the maximum benefit out of every moment of time. She had this diamond intellect to be able to know that. And it is for this reason that she used to say, and she passed away at the age of 104, she would say, people ask me, even journalists ask me, how come you've had such a long life? And she would say, I never wasted time, I never wasted money. And so karmically, if you waste time and money and energy, then naturally it goes away from you. But she would pay attention, and I saw that for 40 plus years that I knew her, very particular on not wasting anything, even physical resources, even objects, even food. Anything should be used in the optimum way. And if I'm paying attention to that, then naturally, karmically, it will stay with me. If you value something, it grows. If you don't value something, it will wither away and disappear. But I noticed with her also, in terms of relationships, how she would invest in another person by making them aware of their potential, of their strengths, and believing in another person. And this creates abundance in relationships. That if with a clean heart, with a sincere heart, I want somebody to grow, I want somebody to realize their potential, and I create opportunities for them to do that, they will grow, and naturally, karmically, that gratitude will then come back to the person who instigated that. So I saw in her this tremendous energy of generosity. And one of the ways that the generosity was visible is in this mantra, which we call as you first. The mantra of you first. When there is an opportunity for something from the heart, can I really say you first? And so she would do that. She would give opportunities to others in front of her. Now, if I'm chasing after something and I have the me first mentality, it makes the person into a miser. It creates these limitations in the heart. And so naturally, other people drift away when they see this act of selfishness that he wants for himself, he wants to hold it, bring it to himself. But when we practice this great mantra of you first, then naturally others themselves also will say, okay, you say you first to me, I'll remember this, and I will say you first to you as well. And hence, life, the universe looks after you if you are deploying this dynamic in your life. So with regard to these dynamics, I'd just like to show you one more diagram. And I have shown this before. I think well worth visiting again. So it summarizes a lot of really what we're trying to share here. So we have these 3 points, there's 3 dots. And so let's start with the bottom left over here. And this represents the self. And across the other side, the second dot represents life. And so here is the dynamic that we are born into, or we are even pushed into, is go out there and get what you want from life. And that is using the principle or the energy of force. Go and get it and keep it. And where there is force, of course, there will always be some kind of resistance. There'll be some fear, some anxiety, some insecurity. This may also be described as the rat race. Now, the only problem is, even if you win the rat race, you are still a rat. It's just that you are king rat, that's all. That's pretty much the world today. This energy of anxiety and forcing. The people who become spiritually aware, who realize there is more to life than simply acquiring, keeping, and protecting, they link their minds with this third point here, which is the source, which we may call as the divine, God, the benevolent energy, whatever word we wish to use. And if you link your mind with the source, if you make that source into your support, your foundation, then magical things begin to happen. One of those is that this higher energy of the source will begin to influence the life which is around you. And hey presto, abracadabra, life will begin to provide to you what you really deep down want. Deep down means not the selfish, superfluous desires, but really the deep down desires of the heart. life will begin to bring them to you. And it's a very different way of living. That is called using the dynamic of power, force versus power. And so I think it's a great way to see, to check the self. What am I using in my life? Am I using force to get what I want? Or am I using this divine energy of power? And in order to connect to the source so that life automatically brings to you and takes care of you what you really need, what is important is our yoga link with this source, the supreme. That's known as yoga, the connection, my mind connecting with the supreme source. And that has to be real, it has to be honest, it has to be deep and experiential. And that becomes the basis of our whole life. If I'm connected in a state of yoga with the source, and then I'm living my life with the highest values I can, life will take care of me and there'll be abundance. Sometimes it is said in this way that a person who is a true yogi does not have to ask for sehayog, which means cooperation. Life automatically will cooperate with someone who is sincerely and genuinely connecting the mind to the source. And therefore no hurry and no worry, just a quiet knowingness, a subtle confidence, what I require will come to me. Last thing coming to my mind is the understanding of wealth, the different types of wealth that there are in the world. And it is said that the highest form of wealth is spiritual knowledge. Now, to have spiritual knowledge doesn't mean just to listen to lots of talks or, check YouTube and binge watch self-development talks or read lots of books. But thinking of spiritual knowledge, churning it, applying it in my life, practicing it, sharing it, if that spiritual knowledge is swirling around, is circulating within my inner spiritual universe, it's the highest form of wealth. Also, if I'm sharing it, it's going to grow. And a person who has the highest form of wealth, automatically the lower forms of wealth will come to that individual. It is said, spiritual knowledge is the king of all wealth. And where the king goes, the subjects automatically follow. What are the subjects? Subjects are things made of the world, things made of the 5 elements, objects, possessions, so-called daily requirements. If I am really honoring and living with spiritual knowledge in my awareness, I'm practicing it, I'm sharing it, then automatically those things will follow you. So all these different aspects are involved, I think, in abundance, conscious living, and also making this effort to really pay attention in my relationships, the kind of energies that I'm using. And I find that if you're doing that, then you'll be one happy bunny, and you'll be a bun that dances, and you'll experience a bun dance in your life. So let me stop there and just check in with the facilitators.
Thank you so much, Brother Yogesh. Wonderful sharing. I know every aspect you shared with us. Would there be any practical step you would like to tell us to guard against our mind and intellect from stirring the water unnecessarily with unnecessary stuff practically in the day. Any particular tip would you like to give?
Well, maybe I'll repeat what I said earlier, but really important to start the day with meditation and some spiritual study. I use this analogy of the three fingers, and I may have used this before, but when you start the day, then first connect with yourself, engage with yourself first thing in the day. Just remember your true identity. I am a spiritual energy. I am a soul. I'm a peaceful soul. I am an actor in the grand theater of life. Then comes a second finger, which is the connection with the source. And you may think in this way, I am a child of the ocean of peace. I'm a child of the ocean of happiness. I'm a child of the ocean of love, and experience your personal and private connection with that source. Then comes the third finger, which is then your duties, your responsibilities, your daily life. Mostly people forget the first two. They jump out of bed and immediately check the messages and start thinking about the day. So those two things first, and then sitting down somewhere and just reading some spiritual wisdom or listening to spiritual wisdom, and then make a program for yourself. Okay, today my focus will be, for example, patience. I'm going to think about patience today. What is patience? How to apply patience? In which situations do I need more patience in my life? How would my relationships upgrade if I was more patient? Give your intellect this homework for the day. Another day you take something else. It may be tolerance, it may be understanding. But if your intellect has this homework, then you're busy. Keep yourself busy in researching and churning spiritual wisdom. If you're busy, then there's no space for waste to enter. But if you're not busy, if the intellect is vacant, then waste thoughts enter the intellect, and then we become weak. Our thoughts become weak.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yes, thank you so much for really this summarized inputs for all of us. Give homework and connect with the source. Thank you, brother. I'll now, actually, Brother Manoj had to leave a bit early. I will request Sister Claudia from Vancouver to give the word.
Shanti, good morning from here, from Vancouver. Good afternoon, probably for you. It is always a pleasure to have you with us, and we feel honored to have you with us because you talk in a very practical and easy way, very easy, as you are an easy yogi. So one thing that quite struck me today is when you are talking about living with a generous heart. So when we live with a generous heart, we don't have to worry much or do not have any fear. And then you talk very nicely about the three types of cooperation. It's very nice to see the difference between one and the other one. And I can tell you one practical experience I have last night. And I was looking for something quite expensive and trying to decide to buy or not to buy. And it's needed, but how much we really are going to use it. And so someone just phoned me and said, I'm going to give that to you for free. So it was kind of I couldn't believe, so like it was for 3 days, I was kind of juggling, do or not to do. And then that one came with a very good karma, generous heart, and not think about I and mine, because I said, no, but you need, she said, no, you need more. So that is a real nice cooperation that we get in life. I think that soul has to have lots of blessing because so good karma. She freed me from so much thought about this and that. So it's very nice to see how you put the three kinds of different cooperation. Yeah, the one who don't need to ask, they just give. And the other one that sometimes we see, okay, do you need an umbrella? But so this quite nice, the way how you put thank you very much was very practical. So we talk about abundance, and then abundance is, yeah, it's right there when we try to live our life in the high living values. Thank you very much, and nice to hear from you.
Thank you, Sister Claudia. And I know we are almost time we are there, but I think we'll still take the last 5 minutes meditation with Brother Yogesh. But before that, let me just do a quick announcement. Two things, whoever are new, if you want to share your contact info with us, then please send to myself, the host, or Sister Vidhi, so that we can send the review material as well as the program's update. As well as the second one is what Manoj brother just shared, that is the ASA Online project by Janki Foundation. The launch is happening tomorrow, Sunday, 26th March. That's 7:30 to 9 p.m. India time, 3 to 4:15 PST, and 7 a.m. for our West Coast. So please note, and in the chart, the information is also there with the link and the timing. Please share with all and join, so that this is to bring awareness about this program that is available, that uplifts. It's a value-based program, uplifting program. And the other one is the silence retreat that was planned just after 12 hours this weekend, has been rescheduled to Sunday, 9th April. That's the silence retreat on abundance, 8:30 a.m. for India time, and 8th April, Saturday evening, 8 p.m. for West Coast, US, Canada. Please note, our next session of Values for Life series is episode 62 on open-mindedness, Khuli Soch in Hindi, for which we'll have dialogue between Brother Eric, who is the National Coordinator of Brahma Kumaris in Canada, and Sister Gayatri, who is the representative of Brahma Kumaris to the UN. And she'll join us from USA, New York. So please join us. It is on 1st of April, Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. for West Coast and 8 p.m. India time. Also, we'll have the spiritual significance of Good Friday and Easter on 2nd April, Sunday, morning 7:30 a.m. for West Coast time, 8 p.m. India time. Please note, we'll have Sister Luciana, who is the National Coordinator of Brahma Kumaris from Brazil, take us through this spiritual significance. And our next workshop will be on open-mindedness after 2 weeks, Saturday, 8th of April. 7 a.m., same time, 7:30 p.m. India time. We'll have Sister Valerian from Switzerland. So please join us. This is our beautiful calendar we always share. We will share. And you can check out the workshop videos, including today's, on the playlist. That's omshanti.tk/. And yeah, check us out on our websites. That's vyasa.in and vancouver.brahmakumaris.ca. Thank you everyone for being with us, and thank you, Brother Yogesh, and we'd love for you to take us through a meditation.
So let's end off with a short meditation, a short reflection. It's good if you're able to have your back straight, your feet on the floor, if you're sitting in a chair. And I'll just offer a few suggested thoughts. And so, as always, firstly, I reflect upon the question of who am I? The outside world is one of noise and movement, and I have little control over the outside world. but the world inside is in my own hands. The world inside is the world of my thoughts, my feelings, my experiences. And inside this world, I can explore who am I? Who am I behind the labels I wear? Who am I behind the roles I play in daily life? Who am I behind the masks I wear? So I come to the very essence of true identity. I, the soul, I, the living star in the center of the forehead, and within I, this living star, are all my eternal treasures. There has always been a reservoir of peace inside me. There's always been joy, love, and strength inside me. And now I choose to emerge, to awaken these inner treasures once again, to experience the fullness of my being. And as I do so, I allow these treasures to emerge through me and into my outer world, in my relationships, in my interactions, in the way I see life. By doing so, I feel very secure, very safe, very strong, very stable, very serene. Let me carry these divine energies through every moment of my life.
Thank you so much, Brother Yogesh, for the beautiful meditation experience. And this is our tradition, and the request is there to keep the photos. We want to keep this memory of being with you in abundance. So everybody who'd like to be in the picture, please switch on your videos. Thank you, everyone, for being with us, and see you again next times. Thank you, Brother Yogesh, and thank you, everyone, for sharing your.
Thank you, Vishnu. Thank you.